Good morning everybody, welcome back to Blue Line Veteran. In this video I want to discuss just a few points, one being the promotion and application process and how being from certain groups is seen as you being treated favourably, basically positive discrimination towards other people. If you vote reform, that you're far right and you're a racist. Now we're not allowed, or say now we are, the police in the Met anyway, you're not allowed to wear the Union flag patch. Exclusion around certain religious festivals, and the 5 officers at Kensington that were removed from post. Okay, so the first one is like it only sort of falls under favouritism and positive discrimination. Now, positive discrimination to the Met is seen as, you know, yeah, we can do it, we can get away with it. But discrimination is discrimination. You shouldn't be allowed to discriminate against anybody. Now, treating certain groups favourably over others is discrimination, surely, whether you're trying to increase people from a certain group into rank or particular jobs. Discrimination is discrimination. We should be putting people in posts that are best suited. You know, they've got the qualifications, or you know, they've proved themselves as a police officer, and you know, they've interviewed well, and they can prove on the application form, the examples they've given, that they can prove that they were part of that example. You know, they've gone to a particular job and dealt with it, and this is what they did well, this is what they've done, and the outcome of the situation, etc., etc. So it shouldn't just be, well, you know, we'll put you in post because we need someone from that ethnic background to be in there, or from that sexual orientation. We've got to do that. I just think it's dangerous. It is discrimination, regardless of whether you want to paint it in the light of positive discrimination. Discrimination is discrimination. Now, one story in particular, I'm not going to name any names, but it's a mate of mine. He's gay, and he's a really good cop. Really good cop. Lives and breathes the job. He wants to, you know, drive cars on the blue lights. He wants to chase. He wants to nick people. All that sort of stuff. You know, all the things that most people will join the police to do. Nicking the bad guys. You know, that's what he loves to do. And he was basically told by our team inspector, who's gay, why have you not gone for promotion? And he was like, I don't want to, I'm not interested. Didn't want to, you know, I didn't join the police to be promoted, I joined to do X, Y and Z. And his words were, and these aren't word for word, but it's basically along the lines of, well, the Met's run by the gay community from the top down, and they will do whatever it takes to get you promoted. They will do whatever it takes. And he was like gobsmacked. He was like, I can't believe I'm hearing this. I mean, needless to say, he was like, I'm not interested, and that was it, end of conversation. But it just goes to show that this is the agenda they're pushing. You know, why? Why you just put the right people in the post to do the job? The right people. We don't need to be filling quotas. We just don't. I don't get it. Doesn't reflect London at all. Doesn't make a reflection of London whatsoever. But that seems to be the agenda they're going with. Now, the next thing that I wanted to talk about was a training day that we had last year, and it's a team. So each team had its training day, but it was all under the same. Everyone was going to get the same training. I say training, it's not, you're not actually training to do anything, you're just getting talked at about, oh, we must try and do this, and we must, you know, it's all bollocks at the end of the day. But this one, we had a chat by some guy from anti-terrorist branch or something like that anyway. And he starts off by talking about Islamic extremism, you know, and then he mentions far left extremists, and then he's like even more concerning is the rise of far right extremism. And I was like, oh, hang on, why are we concentrating on far right extremism? Why aren't we concentrating on all of it? Why is the mention of Islamic extremism, the mention of far left extremism, and nothing more said? And then he starts going on about the rise of the far right extremists, you know, the rise of reform, and the narrative that reform and Nigel Farage is pushing. Basically, he went on to say that if you're a follower of Reform UK and you vote for Reform and you agree with Nigel Farage, then you're far right and you're far right racist. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was absolutely gobsmacked. I nearly fell off my chair. You know, I had to keep the mute, but I was biting my lip, biting my fingers, everything. I was really wanting to press that unmute button and say, you know, how dare you, just because you have a political leaning and you agree with policies and everything else, doesn't make you a racist. Doesn't make you a racist. I mean, what about people from ethnic minorities that agree with reform? You got Zia Youssef. You got Layla Cunningham. They're both Muslims. Are they right? How it just doesn't. The whole. It's such an easy word to throw around, racist. I just don't. You know, if you don't align with the left and their beliefs, you know, or God forbid the Green Party, you know, what a bunch of clowns. If you don't agree with any of that they're pushing, then you're this far right extremist. Just what, you know, fascist, Nazi, bigot, misogynist, transphobe, homophobe, blah. You know, the list is endless of words and names they like to use. And I was just so angry that this guy was pushing this narrative. And where's it come from? Well, there's only one place it can come from, and it's obviously something from the government pushed on Mark Rowley, who's quite happy to go, oh yeah, Keir Starmer, I'll do whatever you want, you know, to push this narrative that anything on the right is far right. There's, you know, it's either left or that's it. There is no sort of centre right. You're either far right or nothing else. There's nothing in how they see it. Now, I was working Notting Hill Carnival last summer, and we were in the canteen bit, and we were given this little meat pie, and I got the ketchup bottle and I put a red cross across it as like St George's cross, you know, and just having a bit of a laugh and a giggle with other people, you know. The next thing you know, Mark Rowley comes and sits next to us, and I'm like, shit. If he sees that, I'm in trouble. So I sort of wiped it off, and then afterwards I was like, why did I do that? What's wrong about that? What did I do that was wrong? And this is the thing, you're made. There's this fear pushed that, you know, anything George Cross, anything Union Jack, then you're an utter racist. And I was like, no, and I really regret doing it. To this day, regret doing it, because I should have, you know, expected a reaction from him and say, oh, well, why are you doing that? You know, why have you done that? Well, why not? It's a round pie, and I've just put a red cross across it of ketchup. But I like an idiot, like an absolute idiot. So now we go on to flags, patches. We're not allowed to wear these. I say we, I'm not in the job anymore, but police officers within the Met have been told you're not allowed to wear Union Jack or Union flag patches. You're not allowed to wear George Cross patches or flags. You're not allowed to, even the rainbow flag, you're not allowed to wear that, apparently. The only things you're allowed to wear are like the poppy on Remembrance Sunday or the week leading up to Remembrance Sunday, and anything sort of help for heroes related. Now, I had a little pin badge, Spitfire, right? Spitfire on my body. I got told to take that off. And I was like, why? Well, it's not allowed. But it's a Spitfire. It's not hurting anyone. It's a symbol of it, if anything, it's a symbol. But no, not allowed to wear that neither. So anything, they've really cracked down on anything that seems to be British, what it means to be British, just at the expense of offending people. Now, if you get offended by a flag, then you're pretty sad. You're a pretty sad person. It's our country's flag. It's a symbol of our country, of our values, our beliefs and everything else, our culture. And yet we're told we can't wear it. It's mental. Absolutely mental. I even had an inspector when I was on post one day. Oh, these far right flag wavers in Parliament. I was like, hang on a minute, why are they far right? Well, they're up putting all these flags up. It's not. It's not normal and it's racist. I was like, why? Why is it racist? Explain to me why it's racist to want to have your flag flying. Do we tell the king that the flag above Buckingham Palace is racist? Is it? When we have the Union Jacks all the way down the Mall, is that racist? What's the difference? And she couldn't answer. She was like, and it's like, exactly. So it's just another thing being pushed. This whole, racist narrative, reform, flags. It bugs the shit out of me. So something else within our culture that the Met doesn't acknowledge is Christian religions. So twice this happened to me. Last year, I was in Scotland with the Royalty Protection Command up at Birkhall, Easter time. No email from the Met for one, from the Commissioner for one, to the whole of the Met. There was nothing, and then there was nothing across the command, the Royalty Protection Command, from our Chief Superintendent about it. So I approached this superintendent. She came around doing post visits, and I said to her, why has there been no Easter message? Oh, I don't know. Well, it's not fair. I feel like it, been just excluded. And she went, oh, maybe it got overlooked. And I went, that's your problem. That is exactly the problem. It's just been overlooked. It's almost like it doesn't matter, doesn't count. So anyway, she said, "All right, okay, well, I'm having a meeting with the Chief Superintendent and I'll mention it." And I thought, yeah, whatever, it's nothing's, you don't give a shit, you're not going to mention it, you're not going to talk about it. But true to her word, she did, and it got back to me with an email from her just saying, I've had this meeting and Chief Superintendent's going to email you back. So he emailed me back a few days later with this lengthy email about, I'm sorry you felt excluded, blah, blah, blah. But he couldn't even just leave it at that. He had to go on to say we must remember other ethnic minority groups, and I was like, why can't you just acknowledge Easter? Just acknowledge that you've missed out on something that's important to me and is important to a lot of other officers that have been excluded. So I thought, right, lesson learned, next year it'll be all right. No, same thing this year. Lent and Eid fall at the same time this year, which is pretty much unheard of. nice lengthy email about Eid. Remember to look after your colleagues that are fasting, blah, 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 blah. All right, well, what about people that are doing fasting for Lent? What about people that are giving up stuff for Lent? You know, and that Lent is an important part of the Christian calendar leading up to Easter. What about that? Any thoughts? So I talked about it for quite some time, you know, over a few days, and I was like, right, I need to address this. I've got to send an email. So I sent an email to the Chief Superintendent with some facts and figures. And I was shitting a brick because I thought I'm going to get into trouble for this. Again, fear. A fear about speaking out, being able to say things. And the reply to my email was literally a one-liner. Lee, I will get a member of my staff to make an appointment for you to come and see me. That's pretty much it. There was no, hi Lee, thanks for your email. Sorry, you know, X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. It was literally just that. So straight away, I'm like, well, for one, that's very impersonal. Two, it's very quite a passive-aggressive response. And three, like, you know, I'm in the shit. Yeah, I am going to get into trouble now. So I was like, well, actually, I haven't done anything wrong. I've not done anything wrong. So I made this meeting, and it was a couple of weeks before I retired. So I was like, I'm not just going to retire and go away, because then for them it'll be, oh, well, you're just a troublemaker. And that's not what I wasn't making trouble. I was genuinely aggrieved that, again, Lent and Easter had been forgotten. So I went and had this meeting with the Chief Superintendent, and obviously he was quite apologetic, you know, quite sincere, which I was, you know, grateful for. And he actually had a solution to how this was going to be addressed. So I'd like to, obviously I'm not going to be around for that next Easter, so I'd like to see whether that, you know, his words come true. So yeah, I'll be interested to see what he says. But anyway, I think I've talked enough. These are just a few things, a few gripes that I wanted to talk about, and let you know things that, you know, it's not all how they make it out to be in the police, and being inclusive and everything else. It's not a pleasant environment to work in, especially at the moment. It's not. So many people are unhappy. No one's joining. Everyone's leaving. People are retiring. People have had enough and just leaving anyway. It just, people just don't want to do it, and they wonder why. But anyway, I'll leave it there, and I'll see you in the next video. I'm not sure what I'm going to do it on yet, but I will post it up next week. But anyway, in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed my ramblings and just my perspective on what's going on out there, and what, you know, what's happening within the job, and some of my experiences. If you want any stories from across my career, I'm quite happy to share those. I might put a video out midweek. I say I know I'll do one every Friday, but I might do one sort of midweek, just with a story of, you know, something I've dealt with throughout my career that you might find interesting. Anyway, stay safe out there, look after each other, and I'll see you in the next video.